Let's talk about no self and creativity. According to Buddhism, the self is not a fixed permanent entity, but a collection of constantly changing thoughts, feelings, and sensations. Understanding the impermanence of the self can grow a sense of openness and receptivity to the world, encouraging creativity and allowing new ideas to emerge. If you've been trying to start a creative career, you've probably heard this before from well-meaning mentors and friends that if you want to have artistic self-confidence, start embracing your identity as an artist and call yourself an artist, right? Well, according to Chogyam Trungpa, the well-known and controversial Buddhist master, who was also an artist, it's from the book True Perception, Chogyam Trungpa. The problem stems from labeling ourselves as artists. When we begin to label ourselves as some kind of artist, I'm a poet, musician, painter, sculptor, potter, that prevents us from reaching beyond that particular scope. All sorts of neurotic possibilities could come out of that. Hanging on to clay in order to produce a pot, hanging onto canvas in order to produce a painting, hanging onto a musical instrument in order to produce a sound. The name artist is not a trademark. The problem of the 20th century is that everyone has become merchandised. Everyone is a mercenary. Everybody has to have a label. Either you're a dentist, an artist, a plumber, a dishwasher, or whatever. And the label of artist is the biggest problem of all. Even if you regard yourself as an artist, when you fill in the occupation blank, I request you not to write, I am an artist. You might be the greatest artist, but that does not mean you have to put artist as your occupation. Because that means you're limiting yourself purely to artwork in the literal sense, as something very extraordinary and unusual. But from my way of thinking, and from what my training tells me, when you have perfected your art and developed your sensitivities, you cannot call yourself anybody at all. He suggests that when you are making a painting or music or any other form of art, just be with it, just explore, allow the flow state and the spontaneity to create through you. Sounds simple, right? So I wanted to test this idea, and I spent 1 week meditating every morning and reflecting on the relationship between creativity and no fixed self. I started writing affirmations that were aligned with this concept and repeating them throughout the day to myself. I then dropped the pressure of making something to share on social media or even to develop my skills. Obviously, I won't show you what I created in this week because that defeats the intention of the experiment. Okay, maybe I'll show you a little bit. Well, actually, those were not mine. Those were AI created images. But more on that later. But here is what I noticed when making art this week, as no one is special. Okay, so first of all, I think the idea of creating this video was my own spirit guide's secret plan to get me back into creating spontaneously. I think they tricked me because I feel like I've lost touch with that part of me that just wanted to create for the sake of it, because I got a little bit involved in how am I gonna start a creative business, how am I gonna make a YouTube video. So the doing part was taking over for a long time now, like a couple of months actually. So I think their plan worked. The other thing I noticed was how much of my life was kind of lived outside of myself. The planning and the day-to-day activities was around the ideas that were created, somehow coming from outside, and what I should be doing. I know it sounds like a cliche that, oh, just tune into your heart and find what you really need to do instead of what you think you should do or what the YouTube wants or what Instagram likes. But I think we kind of really underestimate how much of our lives is lived that way, how little we're actually living from the core, the present moment. But as I'm talking about that core true nature, it's kind of hard to follow the script. So this is a new way of being. I realized this week that there is a new way of being, that I had glimpses of it in the past where I was just creating for myself during the COVID lockdown and I didn't feel the need to share or start a creative business or anything like that. I had those glimpses, just peace, flow, presence, and then joy that emerges from that emptiness, from that space of no agenda. Just little sparks of joy. That makes a lot of difference in the state of being, in my state of mind. I'm quite grateful that I did this experiment. I can only say, try and you see. And then last but definitely not least, the constant background noise that says, oh, is this art? How am I gonna share this? How's this gonna look like? Is this gonna sell? Is this good enough? Just by the simple intention setting that I am not an artist, I am nobody. These are just tools I am using to channel, to move through some kind of creative energy that comes out of a clear, aware, pure space. That made a huge difference to the quality of my experience, the joy that I experienced. Interestingly, paradoxically, I feel immense amount of confidence in the power of the creative force in itself. Just staying with the limited self, with the ideas of who I can be, and the boundaries of my ego. Naturally, it's incomparable, the level of I can't even call it self-confidence, but the level of power that can move through by removing the idea of having a fixed self that needs to abide by this certain artistic identity. It's just immense how much can be available. And as I'm talking, the self says, oh, but what is the outcome? What kind of masterpiece did you produce? You know, is it gonna sell still? But those are all secondary. The primary thing that was the purpose of this experiment was to see if I can access a deeper level of joy, creativity, aliveness, and awe, which I did. When our minds is full of junk and worries, there is no space for creativity. We see the world through the filter of our limited ego and our ideas about ourselves, but not as the world truly is. In meditation, when we touch the natural, original nature of mind, there is more clean space, more pure awareness, and more room for creativity, inspiration, and awe. Okay, so this one is a little bit controversial, so notice your reaction and share them in the comments if you like, as I read the passage from a Tibetan art maker monk that challenges the dominant culture and discourse around arts, but also a specialness of artists. He says, there is nothing special about me or my work. That's a very important key word in everything in life, not only art. Nothing special. There is nothing special about what I created. There is nothing special about me. There is nothing special about somebody liking it, somebody not liking it. This is reality. This is the way that things are. There are tons of other artists, there are tons of other works, and I just make my work. Hopefully, with the idea that some people might benefit from it. That's a basic Buddhist type of motivation. To benefit others, to make others a little bit happier, brighten their lives, even though it's not going to brighten it forever. They're going to get tired of the painting that we make if they see it every day. That's natural. Nothing is special about that. Finally, I want to bring up two contradictory points. These are the things that come up frequently for creatives around this idea of no fixed self and running a creative business. So on one hand, sometimes holding on tightly to an artistic identity or a medium can be damaging and even as addictive as anything else, in that you end up choosing a style or medium based on what sells, which can block the flow of creativity. Although it might not be practical for many professional artists to experiment too much, but it is also worth considering places where holding on to a fixed identity is limiting your creative path. On the other hand, holding in mind the concept of no fixed self can actually have helpful practical implications for creative businesses. If you need to sell your art to make a living, you have to consider what sells. But this doesn't mean you're compromising your creativity. The me that you're compromising doesn't really exist. It's okay to do what needs to be done to make a living. Alongside that, you can also create things that might not sell, but bring you joy and pleasure. If you've been enjoying this video, make sure to subscribe. I'll be making more on this subject and many more. Thank you.